We do have a report this evening and presentation on learning across the district. No?
That is you.
Hello, my name is Kathleen Lonsky, and what you're receiving now is part of a project that we had for contemporary issues in science. The project asked us to model a task force about genetic screening for newborn infants in an area that we just chose. We got a packet to start the project where there was a letter from our governor stating the task at hand about changing the genetic screening process, as well as charts of demographics of different states, different countries. We eventually chose Washington State, and we had to take into consideration the specific disorders, the choice of tests available, the technologies involved, the cost of the test, the rights of the parents and child, and the personal and societal impacts of wide-scale screening. Once we decided our state and our mission was to add more screening for infants. We then split up into roles of community members. I was the lawyer of our group, naturally, no. Basically, my role was to see what role the doctor versus the parent had in the system for screening for genetic testing for a newborn infant. I also, in the packet you received, there's a waiver that I made, a liability agreement that basically said that the doctor, had they given enough information about the disease, would not be liable if the parents opted to not have the screening, and then if something were to happen to the child, it would not be liable. Yeah, so that's basically the purpose of our project, and I'll hand it over to Grace now.
Hi, my name is Grace Spielman, and I played the role of the lobbyist for a pro-genetic screening interest group. We had to choose a state or country in which we would change the policy for. We chose Washington State mostly because we all agreed that more testing would have been more beneficial, which is why we picked Washington, because at the time in the packet, it had the least amount of genetic screenings. Approaching this, this issue, we had to consider several questions, such as the ethics of screening, how practical it would be cost-wise, and insurance considerations, and also the doctor and parents' rights, and as well as the children's rights. So what we did was we drew up sample legislation for a policy change and the waiver that a parent would have to sign if they decided to refuse screening. We strongly considered several additional disorders to be screened for, but we required 2 that weren't, which were cystic fibrosis and maple syrup urine disease. We strongly considered disorders such as sickle cell anemia because of the demographic support, and other diseases such as that. We collected current demographics in order to further support how we would go about and why we would screen for certain things, as well as making it more cost efficient using new technologies such as the tandem mass spectrometer. Our group worked fairly well together, but Gabby will discuss how the groups in general worked.
Hello, I'm Gabriela Nelson, and I'm going to talk a little bit about how we work together as a group. So first, how we approach the materials. We had to thoroughly read the packet in order to properly understand each genetic disorder, and then we determined which to test by kind of assessing the severity of each disorder, the age of onset, and the demographics of the area, which was Washington State. And in dividing up the work, the packet was very helpful. It discussed a lot of the concerns that would be specific to each role we each took on in the group. And like, for example, my role was parent of a newborn, and for some parents, they might be concerned with the right to choose, whether or not their newborn would be tested. And at first in the group, the assignment was a challenge for us all. And, in fact, some of us were a little bit confused at first, but it was similar to any real-life task force in which, you would think about the commitment of each member and how we gelled as a group. And we also had a day in class where we divided up everyone based on our roles. And we talked about, it was a good opportunity to kind of hone in on our responsibilities and concerns related to our roles. And it was a good perspective on how the work of other groups were coming along as well. So.
Hi, I'm Rachel Moskowitz, and my role in this group was that of the legislator. I'm going to tell you a little bit about what you guys have in front of you. So on top you have the pamphlet that we had created for public use. If this act was in real life, that would be for the general public, for doctors to discuss with their patients, for the hospital to discuss with the new parents, and it kind of goes over what we decided to test, our philosophy on testing, the general costs of testing. Under that, you'll have what we presented in our public forum for our task force, which is an outline of our PowerPoint presentation, and that went more into detail than the pamphlet in front of you. Next, you have the waiver, which Kathleen had made for parents who decided after enough education on the topic that they would opt out of the genetic testing. This would have it that the doctor would not be liable for anything that may arise after, and said that the parents were, in fact, well informed on what was going on. Then you had the legislation. That was the bill that we had proposed for Congress, and it outlined, in fact, everything that we had gone over. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Kristin Torres, and I was the doctor of this task force. We found that several of our ideas we proposed for this project, Washington State actually does. For example, Washington State uses a tandem mass spectrometer for newborn screening, which is a specialized instrument that detects molecules by measuring their weight and size. It can also measure many different molecules in a single test, which is beneficial for cost and time. In addition to the tests we researched, Washington State also tests for an additional 16 tests. Yeah. Thank you.
My name is Heather Cohen, and I played the role of a parent of a newborn with a genetic disorder. The Contemporary Issues in Science course offers many opportunities for students to do a lot of intellectual work and discussions, and it's not a class more for memorizing facts and taking quick notes, but rather for delving deep into issues and going through science and social context rather than just historical facts about science. And the class also offers many opportunities for intellectual papers to prepare you for college and real-life experiences, where this task force project was more of a real-world project, and this class offers many different assignments that can help you in the real world and also for preparation for secondary level schooling. And now I'd like to ask the board if you have any questions about this presentation. No, maybe? No?
I'm just going to take a quick second to say the work that all the students did, this is just one of the projects, but the work that all the students did was unbelievably amazing. And even students who struggled with the project, their understanding of how challenging it can be on a task force and the level of commitment that's involved in motivation was really impressive. Yes, sir. Those were the numbers, one that they researched on their own. In front of you is a blue booklet. That was their research book that they created, delving into database research online. And part of this is also in conjunction with the University of Utah's Genetic Science Learning Center, which allowed us the materials to be able to use for the project.
I just find $69 to be a bargain for all of those tests.
Well, and that is one of the things that they first initially learned. When they looked at the independent tests as were done historically, the costs were significantly higher, and the impact on the insurance companies and families were significantly higher. With the new tests that they can do, that they discussed, the cost came down significantly, and that allows for states to reevaluate, which is why this came up as a task force project, allowed them to reevaluate how we go about genetic testing and do screening without concern of needing to make decisions as to do we only screen certain demographics because of this for costs. So.
It's interesting because BRCA testing could easily, which is for breast and ovarian cancer, easily
could be upwards of $3,000. Yeah.
Not even remotely in the same ballpark, so it's
Absolutely.
very interesting and really good information and a lot of hard work.
Nice job.
Nice job.
Thank you. And please keep the packets, but can I have the research book back so I can look at it, enjoy it, but I would like to keep that to use for the future. Yeah, no, enjoy. Browse.
Mr. Giuliano was going to take it for his own personal reference.
We can never hear from that microphone. Can that be turned up in any?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the board. My name is Michael Wildemuth. I'm a social studies teacher at the high school, and I brought with me 10 students from my IPA 1 class. It's the other IPA class. I'm sure you're very familiar with the IPA 2 We the People team that competes, but they'd like to share some of the things that happened in the IPA 1 class at the high school.
What is our civic virtue? To vote, to run for office, to do what is necessary to support your government and your people. We, the students, are the future of this nation, but we cannot go out into this world and participate in our government blindly. That is why a course such as IPL is necessary to ensure that when we do partake in our civic virtues, we are better prepared with the knowledge of our government's history and its basis stored in our minds. Thank you.
A utopian society is built on the principle of working toward the common good. The course builds on the glimpses of historical examples and teaching us its modern-day applications. Upon leaving the IPA 1 class, all of us have not only learned what is described in our curriculum, but also we have been instilled with a desire to help our community by working toward the common good.
Hi, my name is Papayao Century. The Institute for Political and Legal Education, commonly known as IPL, enriches young minds by teaching us about the history of this great nation, but also how ideas like democracy came into being. We learn about constitutions before our own, like the Magna Carta, and how our constitution was debated and ratified by different delegates. Overall, IPL teaches us what our forefathers wanted this nation to be. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Anushka Reddy, and according to recent polls, 45% of students don't bother to watch the news and are not educated on current events. IPL emphasizes the importance of current events, which help us lead the country. Learning about the protests in Hong Kong and the shootings in Paris gives us awareness on problems that the international community is currently facing and empowers us to create policies in order to deal with crisis in the future. Thank you.
My name is Farah Suker. Coming into the IPL class, many students were very firm in their ideas and beliefs. Being introduced to other people's perspectives and mindsets within the class, it has allowed us to broaden our opinions, and we have been allowed to grow as individuals. Even if students have one way of thinking, we role play as other people, particularly ones in government, that might have different or conflicting ideas. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Jonah Aguilar, and Professor Paul Arganetti once said, if you want to be a leader, you would ought to be able to communicate. My pupils and I and I have learned the importance of speaking skills through IPPL, through constant debating that require communication and that have improved our eye contact, fluency, and our presence in how to properly enunciate, and all of which are essential to clearly and adequately speak to the public. Because the IPPL class has taught us how to properly speak, our teachers have thus created a leader in each and every one of us.
Hi, my name is Zoe Dressner, and in IPPL, 50% of our class grade consists of our oral participation, and the majority of that is our in-class debates. We debated a variety of topics, including the Electoral College, gun control, the voting age, and civic virtue in schools. We've progressed as a class of public speakers, and our debates gradually become more and more complex. Students have been chairs in our classes, and we've role-played as senators for certain debates as well. This application to issues and our use of public speaking skills are things that we can all utilize in our futures. Thank you.
Hello, I'm John Gorgie, and during our debates, as Zoe brought up, we follow a set of rules, ethics, and customs that aid in governing the discussion. This set of rules is called Parliamentary Procedure. This procedure is crucial because it allows all students, like myself, to speak their minds freely no matter how controversial the debate is. Such a procedure is also used in Congress, the same Congress that creates laws that affect every single one of us every day. By using a similar procedure, we get a much better understanding of how our orderly system works. After all, we are the future leaders of this great country.
Hi, my name is Simran Bhatia. An important field trip that the IPPL 1 class has the privilege to attend is Rutgers Model Congress, otherwise known as RMC. This April, over 60 students will spend 4 days at the Hyatt Regency, acting as representatives of our government while practicing their policies on current issues. With these policies, we work together with fellow representatives to draft legislation and use the skills we gained all year to successfully convey our ideas.
My name is Daniel Yadin. When we come to school, we learn math, we learn science, we learn history and English. But for 42 minutes a day, we get to learn how to be active members of our society. We learn the law, we learn how our government works, and we learn our rights as Americans. What we do in IPPL has real-life application, and it helps us interact with the world around us. Thank you for your time, guys.
Is there any comment? Mrs. Lax.
So I want you all to know that I started out in IPPL. So when you talk about becoming great leaders, maybe one day we'll see some of you up here. Because that's probably one of the things that inspired me to give back, was the education I got in our IPPL courses. Wanting to do something for the greater good. So kudos to you guys, and have fun. IPPL was my favorite in high school.
I hope we see you in Trenton and Washington, D.C. Forget about up here.
Wasn't there a comment that somebody about the success of the IPPL team over 20, almost 30 years?
Absolutely.
Believe
I wanted to let them know, because they may not realize, that I was an IPPL teacher at one point in time. It seems like another lifetime ago at this point in time. But anyway, having been out of the classroom for quite a long time, I decided in 2005 that it was time to get back involved. And this is how I made my dream come true. So anyway, as they mentioned, we'll probably see you up here someday, and maybe higher offices as well.
Higher up.
Beyond.
Please, higher up.
We will actually be voting this evening on that Model UN Congress, so, right? Sam?
Just another comment, and I thought it was interesting that both of these groups demonstrated the culmination of learnings from over the years and being able to apply it, you know, in a setting such as the group that the first presented and in the IPPL group. So it's the application of many years of learning.
Without taking a final exam.
Maybe we should come up with one for them, right? We could do them now.